ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of SuperCoach Edge, and it's that time again to review another match sim, and this time it was the clash between the Western Bulldogs and the Hawks. And as we did in the previous couple of reviews, we'll start things off by having a quick look at the CBAs, which of course give a little bit of an insight into who played through the engine room, which of course is ever valuable. So let me flick across to that. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to us as yet, I know we're getting quite a few new viewers through our YouTube. If you're watching us through here, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're blown away by the numbers and the increase in participation across our social pages, Discord and Facebook page as well, which has absolutely gone bananas. So thank you again. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed and you want to do so, that would be awesome. But as you can see here, let's delve into it. This is through Code Sports, of course, / the Herald Sun, doing some fine work here. And you can see from the outset, this bloke here, Riley Sanders, the hype is real. The hype is real, folks. This guy was an absolute star. When we're talking about guys that, are kind of going to the next level potentially in their first year, as incredible as that is to say, like Sheasel, as we saw last season, he is definitely someone that can definitely emulate what Sheasel has achieved, because he was absolutely enormous. But I'll get into him in a moment, along with all the stats, of course. So let's have a quick look down here at the CBAs. Now we'll start with the Bulldogs. So as you can see there, Libba with the equal most, with 24, alongside that man that I spoke of just then, Riley Sanders, with 24. Sam Darcy, he has 21, as he was without Tim English being there, the English breakfast, Darcy was the go-to man in the ruck, so 21 CBAs for him. James Harms with 19, which is good to see, albeit in this game, I probably should say from the outset that Treloar and Bont weren't playing. Of course, both CBA regulars, as we know. Harvey Gallagher had 13, Rory Lobb 8, as a bit of a relief ruck at various stages. Caleb Daniel 5, Rolly West 1, and likewise Aaron Norton with that ruck relief. For the Hawks, this bloke here, I speak of young guns in terms of Riley Sanders. This guy has gone under the radar in Henry Hustwaite, and he finished with 21 CBAs, the most for the Hawks, and actually played quite well as well. Connor Nash 16, Ned Reeves 16, obviously in the ruck there, first choice. Cam McKenzie 15, another youngster who impressed. Jai Newcomb 14, Lloyd Meek as a bit of a balanced ruck there with 12. Josh Ward 11, and James Warple 10, and then Max Ramsden just the one CBA, no doubt, in a ruck contest. Let's look across to the stats, shall we? Of course, these stats have been provided by that absolute gun on Twitter / Instagram. Give him a follow if you can. AFL Central, I think it's at AFL Central 1 on Twitter, and just on Instagram, search AFL Central and you'll find him there. But doing absolutely stellar work. Did work with him, helping him out, collate some stats for the Carlton-Geelong game. But the way that he's managed to actually cover every single match sim is absolutely fantastic. So a shout out to him, and I think he's got a mate helping him out as well. So both of those guys doing some stellar work. But let's start with the Dogs from the top there. As you can see here for the Hawks, he has actually noted down the rebound 50s, but didn't do so for the Dogs. So that's the only missing column that we've got there for the Dogs. But we'll start from the top, and Libba. So he finished with 34 disposals, 6 tackles, 4 marks, and 1 goal with 2 inside 50s for a fantasy score of 125. So Libba, he just went about, I guess the way that he finished 2023 with in terms of form. As I've written down here, just looking off to my notes, he just found the ball so easily, as he always does, hit the scoreboard. And a question that I've posed here is, could he maintain his 2023 form? Obviously another year older, and in the past has had some durability issues, but blew off the cobwebs in 2023. And who knows, could he go to another level? But with Riley Sanders there, it makes me think that maybe he's going to get less CBAs. And of course, as I said earlier, this was a game that didn't feature either Treloar or Bont. So I guess just when I run through midfielders, just keep that in mind. And it's something to sort of have front of mind when we're looking at the Bulldogs official preseason game to follow this coming week. Moving on to the next guy there in Riley Sanders. Incredible. 25 disposals, 7 tackles, 3 marks, 1 goal, and 4 inside 50s for a fantasy score of 101. In terms of notes, I've written here that, yes, he did actually get the first clearance of the game and got ample time through the engine room with the equal most CBAs with 24. Found a lot of the ball and kicked a beautiful running goal from just outside 50. If you haven't seen it, check it out on, I think the Bulldogs would have clipped it up, put it on their Twitter. Tackle well also, and I think one thing that surprised me was Finn McGuinness actually looked to move to him in the second half, which was a big compliment and speaks to his dominance that he was having in the game. So an absolute gun, and should be right up there, favoritism for the Rising Star, just incredible. And I was actually thinking as well that, even though the Dogs missed out narrowly in making finals in 2023, I think this is probably a bit of a silver lining here, the fact that they were able to pick up Sanders with that pick. So the pick that they received for missing out for the finals. So, incredible guy. And again, if you don't have him in your team, do yourself a favour. Put him in your team, because you're going to be falling behind. You're going to waste a trade if you have to bring him into your team. So just an absolute gun. Moving on to Caulfield. So he ended up finishing with 18 disposals, 2 tackles, 6 marks, 2 inside 50s, and 76 fantasy points. And he well and truly passed the eye test for me. Looked very solid and took some really strong contested grabs as a high halfback, drifting up to the wing at various stages. The role, I think, ultimately looks good, albeit, the Dog squad was split across both of the games. I say that in terms of the VFL team, plus Bont, Treloar and whatnot, played the additional quarters or periods. So, again, you kind of can only read so much into having a team that's split up and not best 22 or 23, including the sub. But nonetheless, I think he's going to play a very crucial role for the Dogs, and did like what I saw. Moving on to James Harms, and the other recruit for the Dogs, finished with 18 disposals, 8 tackles, 6 marks, and 101 fantasy points. So he had a really nice share of the midfield minutes, as I spoke of earlier when I went through the CBAs. He had 19. Kicked a goal in open play from 45 metres out or thereabouts late in I think it was the first quarter. But again, without Bont and Treloar on the team, it really does remain to be seen how many CBAs he will end up with in season, and whether that means that he alternatively gets pushed forward a bit more, which I think is a little bit of the worry. As you know, with Bevo, he could easily Bevo Harms here and really push him forward a majority of the time, or even push him out to a wing, as we saw with McRae last year at various stages. So something to keep an eye on, again, for the official preseason game to come up. But nonetheless, I think he is someone to really keep an eye on. Like 8 tackles is a really big part of his game as well. And, anyone that is able to build a solid scoring base with their tackling numbers is really someone that's invaluable. So I am a big fan of Harms, and he's in my side at the moment. Moving on to, let's move down to this bloke here, Darcy, of course. Say that again. Luke Darcy's son, Sam Darcy. Really an incredible performance, I think. Stepped up his game yet again and finished with 16 disposals, 5 tackles, 4 marks, 3 goals, and 4 inside 50s for a fantasy score of 97. So had a lot of the ruck minutes without English in the side, obviously, but to me, he just reminds me so much of a young Tim English, and I think if English wasn't there, I think he's ready to be thrown into the ruck full time. So that's going to be interesting to see how they play him in 2024. But I can't undersell this. He looks seriously good and deserves to play at senior level. Did push forward when Lob switched into the ruck, and even pushed forward when the ball was transitioning into their front half. Took a nice grab here and there as well. Just a strong body as well. He's put on size. He's been just an absolute beanpole. But I think that kind of lends itself to his aerobic capacity. Again, part of the reason why he reminds me so much of Tim English is the fact that he's so mobile and he's got that athletic ability to him, despite being 200 plus centimetres. He's going to take the competition by storm, I think. And if Tim English ends up walking to, back home to Freo or West Coast, hailing from WA, I think they will be confident in the fact that they've got Sam Darcy in the wings. So I am virtually on not lock territory when it comes to Sam Darcy, but he's obviously going to be playing more time up forward with Tim English being the number 1 ruck. But playing devil's advocate, if Tim English was to go down at any stage during the year, which, as we know, bar 2023, has battled with concussion and various injuries. Seeing Sam Darcy in the ruck is going to be an absolute treat, and that will elevate his ceiling and just skyrocket almost to the same level as Luke Jackson. This is talking about Freo and Luke Jackson stepping into Sean Darcy's shoes. So nonetheless, I think he's a viable option on the bench and someone that I'm seriously considering. And it's almost there's too many options now on the fourth line when it comes to rookies. So someone's going to have to miss out, but I'm well prepared to spend at least 1 or 2 rookie correction trades in the early part of the season if I do end up selecting the incorrect rookie. But keep an eye on him, obviously, in the first preseason official game to follow when English will, you'd think, play in that team. Moving on to the helmeted one in Daniel. So he started in defence, pushed into the stoppage contest around the ground at various stages, but again, he's not really on my radar. Looked okay, 16 disposals, 2 tackles, 2 marks, 2 inside 50s for a fantasy score of 58, but thought I'd note him down because there'll be a few people that are looking at him as a bit of a pod. But yeah, again, I just think there's too much competition down there with Ed Richards or Bailey Dale and stuff as well, even though Dale may play a bit more time up forward potentially. But yeah, he played all right nonetheless. Let's move on to the Hawks, and starting off with D'Ambrosio, the new recruit for the Hawks from the Dons. He was a standout, 26 disposals, 1 tackle, 3 marks, 4 inside 50s, and 2 rebound 50s for a fantasy score of 86. And yeah, I think he was the pick of the bunch off halfback. Pushed up towards the wing also, and played well and looked very fit, more importantly. But keep in mind, again, with both of these teams not being best 22 or 23, Amon didn't play. So you'd think that D'Ambrosio was kind of warming the seat for Amon when he does return. And you'd think he probably will lose that rebounding role once Amon returns, potentially. So something, again, to watch in the Hawks' official preseason game to come. But nonetheless, looked very, very slick. The other guy who looked slick was this bloke here, the youngster in Huswaite. Looked really, really good. Super clean off the back of 21 CBAs, which was, of course, the most for the Hawks. And could be an absolute bolter. He's at a high price point, I think around about 180k or thereabouts. But he is one to watch. I think he... a lot of handballs there, but a lot of his handballs were to, he'd kind of absorb the pressure from the opposition and then handball out to a player, draw almost another opposition player, and then, handball out to a free teammate. And that was really incredible to see. Just having that nous and footy brain is really impressive to see from such a youngster. So, again, we'll have to wait and see as to, how he performs with a best 23 type team lineup for the Hawks, but I did like what I saw there, and he's someone that I'm keeping a very, very close eye on for the official preseason game. The other youngster that impressed me, and someone that I was bullish about, and Liam and I spoke about him in our rookies midfielder episode, and it is Cam McKenzie. So he relished extra mid-time, 15 CBAs, and was one of the standouts. Looked to have better adapted, I think, at senior level, and the decision-making and footwork were a feature. So he's a big watch again for me. Just rolling through his stats. So 23 disposals, 2 tackles, 5 marks, 15 inside 50s, and 2 rebound 50s as well. So 84 fantasy point score performance there. So I did like what I saw there, and that was something that I floated in that episode when we're talking about rookie midfielders, where he has the potential there. He spent a little bit of time, well, a bit too much time, I think, up forward in 2023, but he really showed in this game that he has the ability to play through the middle, but also play, a bit, closer to defence as well. So really did like what I saw from McKenzie. Moving on to the captain in Sicily, 18 disposals, 1 tackle, 4 marks, 2 inside 50s and 5 rebound 50s for a fantasy score of 64. So he did have a couple of intercept marks, took a couple of kick-ins as well, but really I think it's hard to read his game as, he did push back at stages and played accountable, but also freed himself up at various stages also. So maybe a hybrid role depending on the opposition matchup that the Hawks have, but in terms of, I guess, the defensive setup that the Hawks ran with, they had Frost, Fritz Scrimshaw, Sicily as the starting talls, and then Sarong was injected into the game thereafter. And then, of course, Phillips the SSP signing from the VFL as well, as that bigger body. So I am not overly confident on Sicily. I don't think. That hybrid role doesn't really lend itself to, him having the same sort of ceiling score as he has had in various stages in 2023. But, aside from that, I still think the opposition teams will target him and put a bit of a clamp down, forward, player that's going to play a bit more of an accountable game on Sicily to really clamp down and, play that cooler role on Sicily. Really, I think have a look again how he performs in the next preseason game for the Hawks, but I'm not too bullish on him, and I think that he will be dropping to a reasonable price in season. We will be able to pick him up for a bit of a discount. Running things out, last two plays here, and we have Watson, and I've written down here that he might need a bit more time to adapt to senior level as a forward. And I think he was overshadowed by Ginnivan, who really did impress me. I've been a big critic of Ginnivan, but really did. His leading patterns were perfect. He ran to positions where, he's providing options for his, Hawks midfielder teammates who are kicking inside 50. And, a couple of stages there as well where he found a bit of space, but under pressure as well, where he just take a sort of a one-step kick and pinpoint passes to teammates. So really impressive with Ginnivan. He kind of overshadowed Watson. And I think if Ginnivan's at full flight, I think it gives them an option of, okay, do we need Watson? Yes, they may want to blood him at senior level, but maybe early on they will see him, bide his time in VFL level potentially, just so he gets himself up to speed, gets himself a bit of form behind him before they need to really play him at senior level. But keep an eye on him. But I think considering, his role as a small forward, as we know, that doesn't really come with any sort of consistency. So I'm just considering, I guess, the amount of rookie options that we have in the forward line, as I spoke of when I was chatting about Darcy. I don't think we're forced to really select someone like a Watson, knowing that he's going to have that up and down game and his averages are going to fluctuate from week to week. I think there are better options out there, and I think a cheaper Sam Darcy is definitely one of them, in my opinion. Let's round things out here with Phillips, of course, the SSP signing for the Hawks. I wouldn't call him an extreme mature ager, but obviously played VFL level for a little while now, and he's got that big body, big frame. And I think that I've written down some notes here that he didn't look out of place at senior level after he did come into the game late. Big lad, sizable frame, and it should mean that he adapts to the contest well. And he did actually take a nice contested mark first up when he was injected into the game. So, as I said earlier, in terms of the defensive setup for the Hawks, they had Frost, Scrimshaw, Sicily. They got Sarong also as well. But I think Phillips, there's an opportunity there for him at senior level. Just as to whether or not he starts in round one, I should say, for the Hawks, remains to be seen. But I think there is a possibility that he does. And again, provide us with a cheap, decent option at 102k off the bench is a bit of a nice little cash cow there. Well, that's pretty much it, ladies and gents, for this match sim discussion / analysis. Hopefully you've got out of it what you were hoping, and I've run through the players that you were keen to hear some description on. Outside of this, we might try and get another match sim review in, but we're kind of cutting it a bit tight now because now the match sims have finished, they've concluded. The next stage is the official preseason games this coming week. So we've still yet to release both my team update video as well as Liam's as well. So that will be the next port of call as well. But outside of that, we'll see if we can find some time to do a review video for the remaining match sim games. But outside of that, ladies and gents, don't forget as well, we'll put in the comments, I should say, down below if you're watching us on YouTube, the link to our Discord. Feel free to jump into that. Of course, stats, analysis, discussion, banter, everything else. That's where we're holding our 2 cash leagues, our 1K cash leagues as well. But if you haven't already, jump into that and help grow our SuperCoach Edge community. It is thriving, doing quite well at the moment, with quite a few people getting involved in the discussions, injury speculation. We're chatting about potentially, fading guys, bringing guys into your team, all that sort of stuff as well. So make sure to jump into our Discord, and also we'll put in the comment section on YouTube here our Open League code. So if you haven't jumped into that yet, free to do so, of course, and we will be awarding, I guess, the leader, the winner, top-ranked team at the end of the season. We will be awarding them a SuperCoach Edge Championship ring, courtesy of the SuperCoach Championship ring squad. Well, ladies and gents, we'll leave it there, and thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't already, as we always say, thanks for your patronage, but if you can subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, it'd be fantastic. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, all that sort of stuff via the audio podcast, feel free to give us a review. It does help us immensely. And until next time, we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.